So I hope every one of you let that sink in. This is the INF 11B38 show, and I am your host, Justin Brown. Today in the first hour, we've got Doctor/actor Paul Kratka, who was supposed to be on last week. He's with us in the first hour, and we're going to go over a lot of his career, how he got into, I guess, the truth about things, where he's going, and then in the second hour, I want to talk to you guys about the IMF's document purporting the new global currency in which they're wanting to work towards. And then I've got a plethora of other articles that kind of back it up and, are scaring in the mass into believing this foolishness and where we need to go without realizing who's actually creating these problems. And I also want to talk about the news and their scare tactics with our food supply, specifically eggs, and how they're implementing this SB 510 that they need to pass in order to implement their GMOs on us all, enforce it, take away private and small farms, and also being able to regulate and implement a Codex Alimentarius that's already in Washington further upon the people. So I do believe we have Dr. Paul Kratka in here. I think I brought him in. Are you with us?
I am indeed.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
So you were supposed to be on with us last week, and we were going to go over and we're going to talk a little bit about you start in Jason Part 3, correct?
Friday the 13th, Part 3, that's correct.
Yep, and you got into that, and tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, where you started that, and then how you worked into getting your becoming a doctor, and your realization of where we're at and where we're going today.
Well, yeah, I had been studying acting out in L.A. and landed the role in Friday the 13th and did some other small work. That was the most notorious thing I did, or well-known thing, prominent thing. And, I was very fortunate in that I worked enough as an actor to support myself, which is not usually the case. And so it enabled me also to go back to school because I didn't know whether I wanted to dedicate my entire professional career to something that was so unpredictable, because there are many, many, many very, very talented people who languish in poverty their entire careers. So anyway, I went back to school, and the idea was I was going to get a degree in biology, and I ended up going to chiropractic school and getting my doctor of chiropractic, and practiced for the last 20 years, and in that process of providing patients care, I realized that they also needed to be guided in finding the correct, truthful information on how to live healthy lifestyles. So the last, 10 years of my career has been really focused on teaching people what it is, how to be a healthy human being, and what are the lifestyle behaviors we need to choose, particularly within the domains of eating, moving, and thinking, that are congruent with our physiology and make us healthy people. And it's been a fantastic journey and career, and I've learned as much as I've taught. And that's about something that kind of brings you up to current where I'm at right now.
Now you work with Scott Goldberg and Martin Dulski in the short films that you guys have been doing, and I remember you wrote me today and you said there was a lot of blood involved today when you were on set. Can you explain that a little bit and what you've been doing up there, where you're at right now in Connecticut, I do believe?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity, as you mentioned, to work with a great creative young director named Scott Goldberg, who lives in Long Island, and he's very aligned with getting the truth out about our culture and the corruption that exists in every level of government and politics. And so him and I have had a great time making some movies. One that kind of fits into your model is the one called Loss of Hope, which is about a man who is going through the process of dying in a post-apocalyptic world, and just kind of flashing back on his life and how we were blinded to the reality behind that. And then today I actually just worked on a film in Massachusetts, because I'm now here relocated to the East Coast. worked with a director named Jason Torrey on a film called Blood Was Everywhere, which is just your classic slasher film. It was a lot of fun. I had a great day and really enjoyed that. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what's been going on lately.
No, that's good. I don't know. I think that'd be fun to do. But in Hollywood, I imagine there's a lot of underlining tones to how it really works and the things that are conducted in Hollywood. And I don't know. One of the things that intrigued me with the films and what you guys were doing is that you guys put out a lot of fictional truths. So it's kind of like a fictional, non-fictional. What's more fictional to it is the fictional characters that are in place with some very factually based, if you will, events that could happen or that have been conducted in times past. And
right.
What made you want to be in those type of roles and actually try to actually do something more truthful that's very actually contrary to what Hollywood represents?
Well, I think first of all, I would kind of correct you that, Hollywood is about making money. That's what making movies is about. It's a business. And we never come lose sight of that. So they make movies that people will go see so they can generate revenues. And there's, Hollywood is a very socially aware and socially conscious, and, they have a very strong liberal streak within there. And, and there's a lot of people that put their reputation, their money where their mouth is in terms of supporting and helping get truthful information out to the world. That doesn't always necessarily translate into the work they're producing because it is a business and they're just trying to make money. Now, the reason why I've got involved is I do have a social streak about me, but truthfully, I really just love to work. I love the craft of acting, and I like to work with really passionate filmmakers. And, for example, Scott Goldberg is a very passionate filmmaker, and he's got, he's trying to change the world through his craft and change the way people understand the misinformation and the corruption that's going on in our culture. He's trying to do it through filmmaking and telling stories through filmmaking. And for me, I love that. I love to work with someone like that has a vision and brings a creative element to something. And then, it's a chance for me to work because as an actor, I haven't, worked a lot in the past 20 years. In the last few years, I've had the opportunity to do that, to kind of resurrect my career, if you will. And I really enjoy that. So it's kind of meeting both my needs in that I get to help people go out and spread the truth, but it also is just kind of a self-serving thing that I'm doing something I love to do, and get a chance to kind of, get my my acting chops refined once again and resurrect my career. So it's kind of a mutual admiration and mutual working process that I get involved in, and I love that.
Yeah, I think what I was more basing it upon is I've talked to quite a lot of people, and I've talked to them in a lot of the movies that they put in there. There's a lot of subversive messages out there that they're trying to actually impose upon the people without them actually knowing, kind of a form of indoctrination, if you will. The statistics for Americans, especially kids here in America, that watch an average of 5 hours per day of television, and it's become kind of an obsessive, compulsive, thing that we do here in America. And the movies that are portrayed and the a lot of, not all, obviously, a lot of them are for entertainment purposes and to kind of, take our, put it in perspective to where you've got your priorities out of whack. And a priority of that would be more of, I come home, I watch television. I go to work to make the money so I can come home and watch again. And the laziness in society that we have today that we didn't have so long ago, like people not being involved in politics. And you see that now here more in the last couple of years than you have in a long time, because people are like, what happened to our government? And they're actually starting to be affected directly by these problems, the loss of homes, loss of jobs, can't find any work. You've got the group, the 99, who are 99 weeks on unemployment, and they want another extension after close to 2 years, and then you've got the television. And so I guess what I was saying was more, there's those movies out there where they try to portray upon the people something and try to sway their opinions and to conform their minds more so than the people really understand or realize.
Yeah, that may be true to some degree. I'm not sure it's that sophisticated of a or so like covert of an effort. I think, back to your original statement about children watching television, and that is a very critical problem, because just from a purely, not a social aspect, but just from a physiological aspect and neurological aspect, watching TV has been shown to adversely affect neurological or brain development of children. And so I'm going to put that responsibility directly on the parents. That parents that are not, they need to control, not only the content of what their kids are watching on TV, but also the amount of TV they're watching. And so if you're going to let your kid watch TV, let them watch some cool DVD that's about nature or science or something like that, or something that's designed just specifically for kids. And as far as Hollywood and the entertainment industry having an agenda around the production of their films, I'm not sure I would agree with that. I think that what we're seeing today is the three major media moguls that control a lot of what's on television in terms of news, and, Fox News and so forth like that. Now, I think that is a very overt and covert effort by those people to just put forth their agenda, that they've got a very conservative, neocon agenda that they're putting out there. And unlike, 30 years ago when network television was a place where, truth was just, and news was reported. It wasn't processed to carry someone else's agenda. And I think that's a really sad thing. And I think that, we all have to be careful in our culture of what we watch and what we read. And certainly that trickles down to our children. We have to be hyper vigilant about how we and what we let our kids, take into their brains. And, so that's, I think what we can't do is we can't point the finger so much at filmmakers or the media. We have to just point the finger at ourselves and, okay, what are we allowing ourselves to read? Like, I used to be a daily newspaper reader. That's how I grew up, reading the Los Angeles Times. And it was about, 12 or 15 years ago, I realized that, my focus in my life is on three things. Is what I'm doing bring me, does it serve God? Does it serve my health? And does it serve me financially? And, reading newspapers and watching television and the news does none of those things. So I just excluded that from my existence. And I'm much healthier and I'm much, more on purpose for what my purpose is in my life. And so I think, we have to be careful of blaming others for the demise when we can control by our pocketbook what we watch and what we tune into and what we choose to go to the theater and watch. And, and vote with our activities, our actions we take, and our pocketbooks. That's kind of my take on that,
No, I completely agree. People get upset at me a lot when I hold them accountable, when I say a lot of what the government's doing, and what we see today is a representation of the people, not the government. Governments have always been corrupt since, time immemorial, and it's upon the people to hold accountable these, agendas that they're pushing forth, and it's the people's reflection, their priorities.
Yeah, you're right, but you also mentioned this at the beginning. I was listening to your intro, and you talked about the three branches of government, and, the judicial, executive, and legislative branches of government. And I heard recently something said that I found it really resonated with me, and that there's actually now a fourth branch of government, and that is the lobbyists. And that is a very real thing in our culture, is that special interest groups and their ability